Okay, I wanted to make this video real quick because a friend had asked me or said that I should make a video about what I'm doing. My flip cam doesn't work, so I used to record classes that I was teaching, which are usually just crafts, so there's not like a whole lot of talking going on unless people ask questions. I don't really like to confine my classes to just sitting there and just going on and on and on about the history, but I do like to incorporate some history into it because I don't just like to just throw it in and be like, let's start about Poppets, and then tell you how to use them, but don't tell you where they came from or anything. So the basic history that I was going to give today was going to be super simple because I had a class yesterday, and I remember us scheduling the classes, the Poppet series classes, because there's going to be 4 of them. Me and my friend are doing them. My friend LaRay, she's like my pagan mom. Her and her wife are my pagan moms. And anyway, and I remember we scheduled the first 4 Thursdays in March. I didn't realize today is March 1st, so it's the first Thursday. So last night after our Spellstones class, someone's like, hey, see you tomorrow. We're both like, what? I am not ready. I never made a handout or anything because usually I write out notes, like a complete list of notes, because I get very nervous and anxious around people as I'm very open, and usually I get there without enough time to start blocking or anything things out. So I start to pick up on everybody's, their juju or whatever. And then it makes it hard for me to concentrate. I think that's why I'm really shy as well too. I'm more of like, I call myself a creeper because I'm more of an observer instead of an interactor, because I get stuff off people too much and I don't know how to translate it out right. Because I get so like, hee, instead of freaking out, I get like over hyper, and then when I become hyper, it's harder for me to work it. But I'm young, so I still have plenty of time to work on that. But anyway. With the Poppets we're making tonight for the first series, or the first class, we're going to make clay Poppets, which we take a basic salt dough, which you can get recipes online. I like to use the ones with oil in them, because so it's usually like 2 cups of flour, a cup of salt, and then like a couple of teaspoons of oil, and then it'll say like anywhere from a cup to 2 cups of water. I would just keep adding water until you get the right consistency, and I would use warm water so you get something that you can really work with. With the Spellstones, I like them more like the dough more goopy, so you can roll them better, and they're not really supposed to retain a shape, and they're harder to work with when they're like the dough is more, I guess, dense, you would say. But with these Poppets, you want to basically be making them like you're making cookies. So you want to get them to a good consistency, like a cookie batter. Roll them out. Make sure you put some powder down and everything. You're going to roll them out, the dough, and to take gingerbread. Where did I put my gingerbread? I wish, okay. I have a huge one that I'm bringing tonight. But you can get a gingerbread cookie cutter. I think we got this at the thrift store. So here's one. This is a big one though. You probably want to use smaller ones unless you have a lot of work or detail you want to put into it. And then that's how you would get the body shape of it. And usually what I do is I roll the edges so it's kind of like a softer looking thing. Oh, I totally just skipped over parts of it. Within the dough, what we tend to use, like in the Spellstones as well, I'll put different hoodoo powders. I even put sometimes incense powders in them because of the smell, and they usually have a saltpeter base, so they're not harmful or anything. And I try to use herbs that are not going to hurt anybody, because if you leave this out or something, I'm afraid like somebody's going to think it's a cookie, or your dog's going to think it's a biscuit or something. So try to use herbs, unless you live alone by yourself without any animals, that won't really hurt anybody if they eat it. Maybe they'll get diarrhea or something. I'm being dumb, but something not really toxic. Because I know some people like to use more baneful herbs because it makes them feel more traditional, but you're not going to be thanking yourself for being traditional, or when your kid is barfing all over the place and you take to the hospital, or your dog is freaking out. So I would try and use more like herbs. Like I think when I think of herbs that are okay, I think of tea herbs. Okay, what of these herbs would I put in my tea or something? Do you know what I mean? Stuff that I would ingest regularly is something I would put into my Poppets, such as these kind of Poppets that are going to look like a cookie or something. Not something you can use other herbs when they're out of the way, or they're in something that doesn't look like it's edible. But so I'll make sure those are really powdered. The herbs that I use, I tend to pick them based off of how well they're going to break down. Because if you're using like pieces of cedar, unless you pull each little individual tiny piece apart, it's going to make it so that the batter doesn't stick that well together, and it's going to crack. So then it doesn't look as good, and it's not going to hold together as well. So I think last night we used a fast luck powder. We used a money drawing powder. We used cinnamon and some other kitchen powders like clove and everything, which also a lot of these ingredients you can get at your grocery store, or even the 99-cent store for some of the things, because cinnamon is so cheap you can get a huge thing of it at the dollar store. If you want to be organic, then you can't always find that at the dollar store, but and I try to be organic with most of the stuff that I can find. I know sometimes I can't always get an ingredient at a good price, but I usually put a disclaimer if it's on my site. So And also resins are good for this because you can basically powder them very well. And there's things that I've always like. I love using. Tonight I'm bringing, because we're making healing poppets, whereas last night we made prosperity spellstones. So the healing poppets, I was looking at some of the things like I'm like, okay, maybe eucalyptus or calendula or something, but I'm worried that it won't break down as much. And so if you do want to use something, incorporate a special herb, I would suggest making it into an oil first, which would take a couple weeks for it to seep into the oil and bring out some of the properties, or get the essential oil, or maybe even just use a tea, and the water that you're going to be putting into these poppets can be the herb, the infusion that you made out of it. So basically making a salt dough and adding herbs to it, rolling it out like it's cookies, cookie cutting it, and then shaping them. And so you can also add personal things. Like if you're going to make this of another person or yourself, you could put, if it's your own thing, you could put your menstrual blood in it. You could put some, like a skin sample in it, like if you clip your toenails or something. But it also depends on your path. Some different body parts relate to different things. So be aware of that also. If you don't really care, the easiest thing to do is add a little of your hair to it. You can't really go wrong with that. I know sometimes people will consider toenails different, only connected to certain types of magic and whatnot, but basically you could put yourself into it before you when you're making the mix, and you can always afterwards as well, if you're making especially for another person, I don't you can't really get anything of them, you can always add oils or just visualize that it's this person, because I know it's not always easy to get something of other person's, but that really strengthens the magic. And I never make notes for these videos, so I kind of go on tangents. I'm sorry if you can't keep, like, if you're not following my train of thought, because it's all over the place. But I like to let things air dry because it doesn't mess with the consistency of the poppet. Even with my spellstones and everything, I air dry them. It takes a while. You got to make sure that your house is warm, or you're putting it somewhere where it can dry nicely, like a windowsill. I really wouldn't put it outside because you never know what's going to happen. If somebody's watering, the sprinklers go off, there's an animal out there, you know, I would try and keep them indoors. But if you want something right away and you need to work right away and start working, you can always bake it. There's different, depending on where you live, because I know if you live higher altitudes and whatnot, there's different baking times. I would look those up online. There's basic salt dough recipes. Usually it's like the homemade Play-Doh recipes is basically what we're making. And then there's different ways you can work with the poppet afterwards. You can also add crystals in there. You can add bigger herbs as well, and just be aware that it's going to crack probably. And choose a gingerbread based on man or woman. I always just view this as either or, because we don't live in an age where I feel like all women are wearing dresses or anything. So if I'm going to work with this, I can make it whoever I want to. But I know some people want to make, like, have the visual of it wearing its little dress or whatever. And also with these poppets, you can just make it a basic healing poppet and say, okay, this is a person I visualize them healing. Or you can anoint special areas. Say they're having problems with their heart. So you can start putting different oils there, healing oils, or add a crystal there, or even make a basic salt dough, but then add a little ball of, or like a little, you know how they make like the pomander kind of beads? You can make one of those, or is it called pomander? Like the rose beads and stuff, you can make a little herbal bead and stick it in for the heart, make it out of healing herbs. There's tons of different things you can do with these clay poppets, and they're so easy to make. So I feel like not a lot of people use them, which is really strange. You would think that something this simple, more people would get into it. But then I know some people try to be more traditional and go back, like even in ancient times they're making wax poppets and everything. And I feel like that is more the traditional poppet, but I know a lot of people are connecting those with voodoo and everything. Which every time I say poppet, I hate when somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying and they immediately think I'm a practitioner of voodoo, which is not. I don't have anything against voodoo, so I'm just not a practitioner of it. And I know most people have a negative connotation with that word, so that's the basics of this class that I'm teaching tonight. If you have any questions or anything, I can always do another video. I like getting questions. And I might do another video based on if there's any questions that come up in the class tonight, or to show you what I'm making. I tend to, when I'm doing the class, not to make one of my own, so I don't take away some of the things that we're working with, and also because I like to be able to watch everybody and what they're doing. Like the spellstones last night, I made so many spellstones that I'm a little burnt out on it right now, so I'm like, no, you guys do them. It'll be fine. And I'll probably do a video after this out of spellstones as well, but I need to get ready for my class right now because I'm getting picked up in an hour, and I'm not ready. I'm still in my pajamas. Yeah, so that is the basics of making a clay poppet. And it's not one of those things that you're going to stick a needle in or something. These are not, I mean, you can make poppets for negative uses, but I do not support that. So do what you want to do. I feel like if I was going to do something malicious to someone, I you gotta remember that that things come back to you. So unless you're like extremely well protected and you're like the most powerful witch in all the land or something, I don't know. I'll do a video on how I view using curses and everything. I'm not a love and light person, so I kind of have like a mixed view on that I won't get into now because I'll make this video way too long and I gotta get ready. But yeah, so clay poppet making. And then next week I'm going to be doing Scandinavian yarn dolls. It's a little harder on here because I don't have the flip cam anymore. It's not working, which I could have been able to show you how to make it step by step. But fortunately, last time I taught somebody how to make one, they opened another shop exactly like mine and started selling them. They thought it was, they changed all these different things. And I was kind of honored that they were doing that, but kind of bothered because they like made it 4 times the price of what I was charging. And I just felt like they had learned a craft and then went out to just drain people of their money for something that really wasn't even worth that much. I mean, I usually sell mine for $6, and I feel like that's a really good price for how long it takes and like the work that I put into it. And she's selling it for like 20 something. But I'm not gonna get into that because I know everybody copies each other, but it's different when they take something that you've taught them and turn around and work it on someone else. But yeah, so thank you for watching my video. I know I ramble a lot and I'm really sorry, so that's what the comments below are for questions. I do get back to them eventually. I don't check my YouTube all the time, so just keep an eye on. Thank you for watching.